you guys talk for a second? I'm actually going to stand up because it's been almost 3 hours.
Oh, very good.
Oh, yeah.
Give us your impressions of
I don't do
the
impressions.
costumes that you've seen here.
Oh, my God, I tell you. I'll tell you what. I saw the Ghostbusters are here.
Yeah.
I did see the Ghostbusters.
Right. Well, you never know what kind of spirits are lingering around.
And I just threw it up on my personal Facebook that this is the coolest con that is not a con that you'll ever go to. I mean, it's really kind of
it's like the uncon of but cons.
It's really cool.
You've been conned into a con.
It's a party atmosphere, and I'm not really a comic book guy. I'm not like into the scene so much. I've shot some cosplay and such, and I always thought it was sort of silly, but I kind of get it now. I kind of understand it. This is not just a comic book store. When Art was making all those little promos and such, I was like, what the heck are you doing?
I know.
You're making this like giant big deal about something, because I thought it was like, oh, it's a comic book store.
Well, what kind of sort of really the real kind of impetus of this thing is a couple of years ago, we were over at the Acme store. I was the one that did the commercial that was showing off the store, and the feel of the place was all Todd Fisher. I mean, he was generally the real spirit of he was an employee, but he always had these great ideas of just like how to display toys and used toys, and he would make action scenes and all kinds of fun stuff like that. And
he was basically a big kid, just
absolutely
doing what he wanted. That's cool.
So, instead of doing the typical thing of a store where it's like, over here we have our comic books and over there, I was like, well, let's have your customers talk about it. So Todd hosted it, and we kind of made this kind of fun, upbeat kind of thing. And then I, was looking at the place at the time, and I'm like going, wow, this would be a great place for a podcast where you have they have a bar there, and you'd have, the store is the background, and do some kind of lighting and give it a mood and things like that. And so when I was telling that to Art, at work, he's like, so he's like, oh, what about that podcast thing? What about that podcast thing? So then Art just, he was so excited to jump in, and he really just jumped in. So. And then we all kind of pull our ways in to make it happen, and we make it happen.
I'll tell you what, I like doing stuff like this. This is fun for me, to set it all up and then to actually speak about something for a couple of hours, and the urgency of having to fill that time. You can't just sit here and take it in. You have to continue speaking.
Right.
I like that. I like that because I don't know what I'm going to say next. My brain doesn't work that fast. So
you kind of honestly you observe what's around you, what's going on.
And that's exactly what it is.
Well, luckily around us, things keep kind of changing. I mean. And people keep showing up. That's the other thing too. And there's Kristen Miles.
Hey, Kristen Miles, how are you?
So, that's the thing is people keep strolling in. So it's not just like they all showed up and then they were done.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was afraid of. I thought I saw a little bit of a line right before it opened, and then everybody poured in.
Right.
And what I thought might happen was after an hour or so, it would really thin out. They would see everything that there is to see here, and then just go on. But there's so much to do here. They've really made sure that there's plenty of things for people to do, and I'm very excited for Phase 2 for this place when that bar area opens, when the back area opens for people to hang out and play their card games and their board games and such.
And also, another group that's actually helping out today is a company called Free Play. So they're stand-up video games.
With the video games, yeah.
Classic video games that are free.
And there's some pinball games too.
Yeah.
Pinball's always been my favorite.
Like there's a Pac-Man game, which I remember I spent about $5 back in the 80s dropping quarters.
It almost looks like a special one. It looks like it's got some signatures on it. So somebody's personal Pac-Man game, I think, is
unless they must have had a tournament on it. They might have had a tournament.
Maybe a tournament version of Pac-Man. I don't know.
But there's
I grew up in arcades. This is a little bit of Shangri-La for me.
What is the Gauntlet?
Gauntlet, the 4-player warrior needs food badly.
Valkyrie's about to die.
I love that game. Yeah,
that's actually here too.
I was terrible at that game. I never played that one. I didn't have free friends. The video games were my friends. I played Zaxxon and Robotron and all those Defender. I stuck to Defender though. Defender had too many buttons.
But going back to you were mentioning like how you've never seen this stuff now. Meaning culture-wise. I'm you and I are roughly the same age, and the thing is, when I was younger, this stuff was like, well, I mean, I read Marvel comics. I mean, I loved Spider-Man, the Hulk, and that's what I kind of got into around 10, and then I was started buying like back issues and reprints, just really enjoying it. And of course, you always get totally just berated, like, why are you reading that stuff? And oh my God, people just roll their eyes, but they didn't realize, because they never took the moment to try it or anything like that the material was not written for children. It was written for teenagers and adults. So it's a lot of adult kind of storyline themed kind of things. And so just over time, just honestly, ever since the explosion of the movies, people now start to see what it is. And so now these conventions come up, and now, you go to a comic store, and it's okay to go to a comic store. I can wear a Hulk t-shirt, and people are like, oh, he's wearing a Hulk t-shirt.
So somebody who's been a reader for a long time, have comic books changed over the last, let's say, 30 years? Because with the introduction of the movies, with the introduction of or the reintroduction of a lot of characters.
Well, there's always has been. I mean, in the sense that there's always a general evolution of stuff in the books anyway. I mean, obviously when you look at the stuff from the 40s, I have a hard time reading it because it's like, Superman showing up to knock out a guy who just robbed a bank with a bag of cash in his hand. I mean,
with a dollar sign on the
right,
bag.
Exactly. It's kind of like, wow. He's like, well, I'll take care of that guy.
Did Marvel and comic books ever get real political? Did they ever get propagandist?
No, Marvel actually, Marvel. I would say this: political, as in they would have Nixon. They'd have Gerald Ford, Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan, Barack Obama, Bill Clinton.
Is that being topical or is that being political?
Topical.
Okay.
There was never preachiness.
So they sort of existed in the same world as we existed.
Right.
So they didn't invent their own universe.
Because the deal was that, DC, when they came out, they probably were thinking like, well, okay, these are made-up characters, these crazy superpowers. There's no way they would live in our world. They have to live in a special world, which is, they're the Star City, Metropolis.
It wasn't New York City. It was
New
Metropolis.
York. And so Stan Lee was actually, he was
whom I've met, and I'll tell you about that in a little bit.
I've met him too.
Oh, okay.
I mean, if you had a real interaction with him,
did, yeah.
Okay, then that's one thing. I've did meet him at the conventions and stuff. But he was a frustrated writer. So I mean, he started writing comics at age 17, and he'd be at cocktail parties in New York, and they'd be like, "So, what do you do for a living?" He's like, "Well, I write comic books," and he said they would walk away on it. So he honestly was hiding his career for a long time, and he was about ready to quit. And his wife said to him, well, before you quit, why don't you do something you want to do? And he's like, okay, well, I'll come with my own thing. And so he created then, at that moment, the Fantastic Four. Mm-hmm. That was the first one, and that was a hit. And so they came back to him. They're like, well, what about? Do you got anything else, Dan? He's like, well, I got maybe a Spider-Man, I guess. So then he did Spider-Man and the Hulk.
Because if I understand it right, he wasn't creating books at that time. He was just coloring or inking them.
No. He was
writing them.
He was writing in the editor.
Just different
right.
stories.
And basically how the kind of worked like this is that the Marvel method was this: is that Stan would basically come up with the plots. It's like, all right, Spider-Man is in New York. Because, and he wanted him in real-world places because since he worked in New York, he wanted to go. It'd be kind of cool if he went and got coffee at our favorite whatever coffee shop. He's like, all right, Spidey's in New York, and he's doing his thing, and he could barely pay the rent. And then Dr. Octopus is, he's robbing a bank because he needs money to get technology for a new machine, whatever it is. And that's all he would send to the artist. And then the artist would kind of take, a fleshed-out outline plot. They would just run with it. And then he'd go back and he would then, at that point, add in the dialogue.
No kidding. So the panels would be drawn before the dialogue was put in?
Right. And so that became that kind of Marvel method because he was just trying to buy himself time because he had so many books. And then also, there's also, you see like a penciler and an inker and a colorist. This is all about expediency of getting the product out. I mean, it was like, okay, I drew as quick as I could, give it to a guy or a girl who's going to add pen and ink to do as fast as they could, to hand it off to the colorist who's going to color it as fast as they could, so on and so forth, to create this assembly line, for these books to come out.
Yeah, now that you say Marvel Method, that rings a bell.
Yeah.
Last year, I was out in L.A. I was hired to set up the audio and video to do Stan Lee interview.
Get ready for the name drop here. Here comes the name
Yeah,
drop.
it's not a name drop. It's just I was hired.
He's
to go
amazing to be
and do it.
around. The guy's
He's sharp as a tack.
I know,
mean,
he
hasn't missed a step.
He's like 93.
God love him for getting to enjoy later years in life. He's having this great fourth quarter of his life.
He was absolutely.
I think he's going to get a fifth.
He's
the way he's going.
flirting with the interviewee or interviewer, and they happen to be friends. She's interviewed him several times, but just extremely sharp, smart.
You got a photo with him?
I did. He had to do like a little commercial or something like that, and basically his agent told him what he was supposed to say one time.
Wow.
And he nailed it. And he nailed it in that Stan Lee.
Right. My friends.
Oh my gosh, he was amazing.
It's going to be great.
Absolutely amazing.
Think about it. All enthusiasm he has.
Was he on the list of people who there was a time in the 80s and 90s he wasn't getting his due financially?
Oh yeah, he finally got the back pay he deserved.
Yeah. And speaking of somebody else who's had a big fourth quarter of their life, I had mentioned earlier we were going to kind of talk about Christopher Lee, who just passed away the other day at the age of 93. Talk about somebody who had a great fourth quarter of his life. Star Wars, Lord of the Rings.
Oh, yeah.
And for us as a kid in the 70s, he was Dracula.
Right. And also the man with the golden gun.
Yes, the man with the golden gun. He just...
Wasn't it like a third nipple he had or some bizarre thing?
What?
In
what
that movie?
What was that thing?
I think you're confusing it with a South Park episode or something.
Something like that. He had like some oddball.
Christopher Lee, best known for his third nipple.
Third nipple.
I saw that on his tombstone. But,
definitely in the obituary.
Third nip Chris.
For every great hero, there's a great villain. And, boy, he was one of them in many films. And, he had the voice. He had the deep voice,
Oh,
too.
yeah.
He could have done some great animation work.
I actually think that one of the best things about the Star Wars prequels, and when it comes to moments, sadly, with the prequels,
there was one.
There was one, and but it's Christopher Lee, and he's like
British actor. Give me a good old British actor.
But just the way he says to Yoda, we'll settle this with our lightsabers. It's like, okay.
You mean like a debate? Oh, with lightsabers.
Right, with.
I thought you said without. I'm like,
no,
how
with
debate?
Yeah, we're gonna debate with lightsabers.
Math questions, Q&A. We're gonna settle this.
That's when Yoda turned into a Pokemon.
Right.
That was that battle.
Crazy. Well, earlier I got pulled away because there's a gentleman out here who wants to sit down on our podcast to tell us about extra-life.org. He's going to talk about an organization that gets people to play video games and raise money and awareness for the Children's Miracle Network. So he's going to come over at 12:30 and talk to us. Everybody wants to talk to us now. We are famous. We got 11 people watching us.
Play video games for charity?
Yeah.
I could do that.
He's going to come in and give us a little bit more of a description, but not until 12:30.
All right.
I'd really like for Todd or Anna to come and sit with us, but
yeah,
they are hard to come by right now. Sure.
I think in some ways they might be just kind of they got this up and running. I think they're kind of resting.
Yeah, I would just kind of drift off into the corner and just kind of enjoy it.
I mean, they've only been working straight, like 14-hour days for a year.
Yeah.
For a year.
I'd mentioned to Mark, our first interviewer, one of the things I remember as a kid was going to like a Walden bookstore and spending hours there. Did you guys ever have a store in the mall where you could actually sit and enjoy yourself for a couple hours?
You know what? I wanted to come back to this because I wanted to say when I was 9, 10, 11 years old, I knew kids who were all into comics.
Right. I wasn't one of them.
I wasn't one of them either. And I knew kids who were into the baseball card collecting.
Right.
And I was never into any of that stuff.
Yeah.
So I never really was exposed to the universes of DC or Marvel. And now something like Watchmen, I want to pick up that graphic novel because that's fantastic. I mean, just the writing, the depth of the writing in that is something I didn't really understand. That's what comics could be.
Now that one is political.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
That's a political.
Nixon's third term. And,
right.
Yeah.
Now, did you ever pick up The Dark Knight Returns?
The movie? Yeah. No.
That's the Rises.
I picked it up at Blockbuster.
Right. For $14.95.
No, I haven't. I've never really been a big reader, but the graphic novels are interesting to me because they're more than just words on a page.
Right.
Well, what's
they're
interesting,
helping you build that story, that vision in your mind.
What's actually kind of now what's been happening in sort of the graphic novel market. Usually, a lot of books come out individually, the trade paperback is the collection of 5-6 issues, and now what's kind of cool is that they're kind of looking at him almost like a DVD release, where it'll be like an interview with the writer, interview with the penciler or the artist.
I think that's important. I think
extra
that's
pages,
what people need
unpublished,
these days.
unpublished stuff, rough work, things like that, where you're like, oh, okay, very cool. I get to see this. But for example, being a Marvel kid, like I said, I was very, very into Marvel. I read. My initial stuff was the reprints of the 60s. So that was some of the stuff, I was reading like John Buscema and stuff, like the Avengers. We're
I've
now,
heard of that movie. That's a good movie, I heard.
It's actually not a bad movie. and the second one's pretty good too.
Is it? I haven't seen the second.
But, but the thing is with like the Avengers, for example, I read the introduction with Ultron and Vision, and also you'll see now in the upcoming Ant-Man movie, Yellow Jacket.
They're saying that Ant-Man's going to be really good.
I have a feeling it is. I think it's going to be out of the blue. People are going to like it a lot.
It's going to be a sleeper. It's a character I never knew about, so it couldn't be too mainstream. I knew who Captain America was. I know who Thor is, but Ant-Man, never heard of Ant-Man.
Well, that's the thing is that, and the thing is that's in some ways a bit of the good and the bad with the movies, and I don't mean this
how popular was Iron Man before the movie came
out?
out?
That's exactly true. I didn't even know what an Iron Man was until the movie.
And boy, that exploded.
Oh, the thing is like, when I saw that movie, you could tell my reaction. You're trying to, oh my God, it's
GoPro just ended, excuse me.
Oh. Goodbye, GoPro. But the thing is that, for example, the question that's always begged of yourself as the reader, watching the movies, did they get it right? And I don't mean it like, oh, that's the scene from issue so-and-so. I don't care about that. I care about the tone, the personality, because the Marvel Cinematic Universe is completely different from the regular Marvel Universe, and that's okay. But the point is that...
Well, I think it has to be.
Well,
If they made a movie that was basically a motion comic of the
it's
books,
it's too inside baseball.
Silly.
No, well, it's too inside baseball. You know what I mean? It's that kind of thing where like a real small minority would get it, and the rest would be like, well, that's kind of okay. So they have to make it broad and create a new universe on its own. Like even when Spider-Man, the movie, Sam Raimi, that one.
Yeah.
When I went to the sneak preview of it over at Universal Studios. I had some giveaway tickets, and so I'm like, okay, we'll see how this goes. The X-Men movie, they did pretty good kind of translating that. I was surprised, kind of like that. So Spider-Man comes up, and the thing that sold me was when you hear the voiceover, Tobey Maguire kind of talking about like, this is a story about a girl and a guy and whatever it is, and he's like, and he goes, and that's me, and it's him running after the bus, showing him in the glasses and the very he looks just like a Steve Ditko drawing, but it's just when I'm watching it, I'm like, wow, they totally got this.
That's a direct line from Stan Lee, that Spider-Man is about a girl.
Yeah,
it's not about villains. It's not about superpowers. It's about trying to get that girl.
Right.
And I believe it was Mary Jane who he fashioned after his wife. I mean, he adores his wife.
Oh, I know.
He's quite an amazing man.
Did you ever hear the story about Stan Lee and about his wife?
He told me briefly, and I read a little bit about it on.
One of the things that he said in an interview that I believe he said on television, or I read it, but he used to. This is the most interesting thing about Stan Lee that I love about him and his wife. He used to draw a girl. I mean, Stan Lee can draw, but he's not like he's not like a comic artist where he's knocking out pages per day. But he can doodle, and he used to draw this girl all the time when he was like a teen, like 12, 13, high school, and so what happened was when he met his wife, she looked exactly like that drawing. and he first time he saw her, he goes, "Oh my God, I love you. I want to marry you." He said it to her like right away. He proposed her like right away.
I do remember reading that he had to chase her for a while.
Yeah, because she was engaged. But,
yeah.
But then look at what that love did for him. He was going to quit his career, and she said, "No, go for it one more time," and gave. This is a direct.
This wouldn't be here. None of this would be here without Stan Lee.